2 claps.
There we go. Hit him with the 2 claps.
2 clap Sam, that's what they call me.
If love only comes to those who wait, God only serves the ones who pray. If patience has left you feeling miles away, I gotta say no to those.
Stop.
Welcome to the BnG
Supercast.
Supercast.
It's super.
Super duper.
You know why it's super?
Because we use music that's not ours?
Yeah. Speaking of which, stop. It's sampling, it's fine.
Yeah, for real.
So, Ben,
Yo,
tell me, how do you make spaghetti sauce?
you got to make the sauce. You have to be Italian.
No, really, tell me how you make spaghetti sauce. How do you make a good sauce? Tomato sauce.
A good sauce?
Yeah.
A good sauce, Gabe, starts with the ingredients. The key is the ingredients, Gabe.
Yeah.
That means the best tomatoes.
What are those ingredients?
Okay, so if you want to make a good sauce, honestly, red gold tomatoes.
Red gold?
Red
What's
gold are just as good as San Marzano. Everyone thinks San Marzano. Oh, San Marzano
Is that
tomatoes.
a species?
Red gold is just a brand.
Oh, okay.
But they're canned tomatoes. They're very good.
Oh.
You put them in a crusher, or if you don't have a crusher,
You puree them?
You can do a food mill, or not a food mill, a
Processor?
blender,
Yeah.
Or you can just crush them with a fork or something if you're making low volume. Just keep it simple.
Keep the peels in? Oh, no, they're canned. So
They're canned, so they're already peeled. Salt, a little bit of olive oil. That's all you need.
That's it. No garlic, no onion.
No. If you're doing marinara, it's a different story.
Okay.
Okay, marinara, you want to simmer. Okay, you want the oregano. You want the garlic.
Okay.
You want the spice.
Okay. I feel like I still don't know how to make a sauce.
Like a regular tomato sauce?
Yeah, like
told you.
a spaghetti sauce.
Spaghetti sauce? You'd probably want a marinara for spaghetti sauce.
Well, so how do you make marinara?
So, same thing as you would with regular pizza sauce. Okay, you throw it in the pan.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you want to cook your garlic a little bit.
Okay, cook garlic.
You can use fresh herbs. You can use fresh or dried. If you're gonna use fresh, I would probably encourage you to put the oil in with the herbs and the garlic.
Herbs in the garlic and oil. That doesn't burn them.
Well, you want to kind of wait till the last second to add the herbs.
So just so it gets in the oil.
Yeah, it just gets the oil, kind of releases the oils and stuff. Then you put in your tomatoes, and then you're simmering. Okay, simmer. I'm talking low heat. Okay.
Low heat.
I'm talking.
And you stir regularly.
Long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
How long? 30 minutes?
No, you can go hours for a good sauce.
For a good sauce.
You're basically reducing.
Oh.
Okay, and then if you want to, you can add a little bit of red wine, just a little dash of red wine, kind of make it a little more complex.
You don't got to get high heat for that to burn off the alcohol? Or?
What are you talking about? Burn off the alcohol?
We want that alcohol.
We want all the alcohol. No. And if you want, you could probably do it at the start with the oil and stuff. You could kind of deglaze a little bit with that.
Oh, okay.
And then throw in your tomatoes and simmer. I don't make marinara that often.
Do you ever put meat in your sauce?
You totally can.
When do you do that? Like at the beginning?
If you're going to do meat, you just start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay? You start with the meat. Then you push it over. You can use the grease from the meat. Add your...
Oh, yeah. When you add your wine, it degreases...
What is this, cooking 101, Gabe?
No, I mean, I'm just curious because like there are some things that are very basic, but that I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have more knowledge of baking.
Baking?
Yeah.
Baking is really awesome, really fun. Lots of science.
Yeah.
So.
That's my excuse when I buy a ton of brown bananas at the store.
Yeah.
It's just so I can make banana bread.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Love me some good banana bread. Zucchini bread also very good. Not as good as banana.
Zucchini bread.
Zucchini. So, I want to talk, Gabe. You wanted to have a deep talk.
Oh,
here.
yeah. What were we going to talk about? Oh, that's weird. I forgot. So, we need to have a settling of scores. DTR.
Yes.
Yeah. For those of you in California or wherever you are, DTR in the Midwest
Not to be confused with the DNR.
Or DMR.
Or the DMV.
Wait, what's a DNR?
Department of Natural Resources.
Oh, whoops.
I think.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
quote me on that.
DOE, DAR.
Doe a deer, a female
Doe
deer.
deer. Yeah, I was gonna say DAR is not anything.
Yeah.
Okay, but we do need to talk because the direction of this podcast, Ben, is very. I'm gonna sum up. Very religion/faith based.
I hope it's not religion based. I don't want no religion.
Love
don't give me none of that religion.
is my religion.
Oh boy.
Love is my religion. Okay.
Here we go.
No, but like okay, real cast. It's off the shelf.
Oh my gosh, he's holding it.
I'm holding the mic. So Ben, look at me.
So now you're gonna mess up our levels.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I'm just kidding.
So, let me be real with you.
Be real.
When we first founded this podcast, this grand
In
expedition,
this very room.
yeah, with these expensive microphones that I did not buy.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more like
More fun.
an even mix. Exactly.
Better.
Yeah, everything you're saying, an even mix
So far,
of
just
topics,
disappointment.
and it seems focus, structure, Ben. It seems like we are kind of doing that, but in the freeformness, I am still seeing a pattern where we do a lot of faith-like focused stuff, a lot of heavy topics, which is fine.
What do you mean by heavy topics?
That's heavy, Doc.
What do you mean by heavy?
Like talking about like demonic stuff and like spiritual forces, which is true, which is important, or even talking about like
What makes them heavy?
problems in the world.
Okay.
You know.
Sure.
The thing is that like, while yes, that is true, it's a lot. It's the same reason. Like, think about how when you watch the news, you know, even if you get like accurate news, you don't do it every single day, or at least I don't. Do you do it every day?
I almost never do.
You almost never do. So when you do, how do you feel afterward?
Well, I don't think you can draw a parallel between these two.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a rough comparison here where even when things are true and educational, I think they need to be metered out with a healthy amount of lightheartedness. And that's true in storytelling. That's true in, I think, all forms of media.
Well, I don't feel heavy about them.
I do.
Why?
Because I think they're very serious, and sometimes they can be depressing. And I say that both for me personally, but also just for the podcast, you know? Like, we can have conversations about that on our own till the cows come home. But if that's all we ever talk about, we probably shouldn't call it the Supercast. We should probably rename it to something like Tough Topics with Ben and Gabe or something, you know? Something that's more actually accurate to what it is. Because then we have to be honest, we're not being really freeform. It's like you open up a dictionary and inside are cooking recipes. You're like, hold on. You know, it's like, it's not completely like that, but do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but I don't share the same feeling of feeling heavy or feeling because here's the deal, Gabe. Here's the deal. Like I said, because we touched on this topic last night, right? Do you remember what I said?
Touching tough topics with Ben and Gabe.
Do you remember what I said though last night?
You said at all times, if I remember correctly, at all times our lives are examples of truth, basically.
They're on display.
They're on display.
Yes.
Yes. I agree with that. My life is not like regularly talking about that. It's also making jokes, being into a lot of different topics or a lot of different subjects. I'm really into coding. I really like video games, design. I like reading. I like books. I like baking. You know, a wide breadth of topics. These past few episodes, I've seen very little actual talking about, at least for me, more of my interests, things that I can, like, that we can, like, have fun talking about. And it's more been about, like, lessons, you know, and issues of morality, you know. So I'm trying to find a balance between the two. I'm not saying, like, they're separate, you know. I don't want you to think that. I don't give that impression. Like, they're not separate things, but It's like spice, like when you're cooking, you know? Like
Here's the problem.
you need the right amount of spice.
Here's the problem. You delineate between spirituality and your regular life, and you want to season it in. To the spiritual person, all things are spiritual. And I don't say this to like attack you or anything like that. I'm just saying maybe part of the reason why we feel differently is because you're at a different spot, different place. A little bit. Do you think that's true?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I do think we're at a different place.
Okay.
The thing is, I don't think I'm sprinkling it in.
Well, you just compared it to seasoning.
I know, it wasn't a perfect analogy.
Yeah. I don't.
It wasn't a perfect analogy,
Sure.
but I don't think I'm...
I'm
That
just.
does kind of sound personal. You say it's not, but it does.
Well, Gabe, I was borrowing your language. You used the language.
Oh, it's my fault now.
I'm saying you use the language of like a spice.
I'm
and
talking
what I'm saying
about...
is for me.
Yes, I'm talking about for the podcast.
Okay, but
Like-
but all of this is just our lives. So for me, if this is kind of I'm just talking about life, that's all it is for me. It's not like an agenda per se or anything like that. It's just that's life.
Well,
you
it's
know?
also tough for me to talk about a lot because I have a history with that rhetoric, with
Okay.
people with that rhetoric,
Okay,
you know,
sure.
and it's not been good.
Okay,
Like, some of it's been okay, some of it's been pretty negative.
okay.
And in some cases, it's even been a bondage, something that's been held
Yeah.
in an
I
accusatory
understand
or degrading way, you know? And-
Which is it meant to be that?
No,
Not at all.
no.
Not at all.
But I'm not going to ignore it. You can't just ignore what you've been
So
through.
what do we need?
Need to
What
acknowledge it.
what is needed?
Spaghetti sauce.
Healing.
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 Yeah.
Healing is what is needed.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
we know.
So talk about as much as possible. Every second of our podcast.
No. So we need the healer, right?
Yeah.
We need Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the healer.
Yeah.
Okay, and the thing is, like, I cannot totally understand why those things feel heavy in some ways. It's because it's kind of like we were talking about earlier this morning, the difference between striving and what was the other word?
Striving and stretching.
Striving and stretching.
We had some really good quotes.
We did.
We
That was
talked
good.
so much before this episode.
Yeah.
And none of it is in the episode. It makes me so mad.
Well, it's okay. We can touch on some of it. We talked about the difference between striving and stretching. What makes them different? Because we
Performance anxiety, I don't remember.
I'll give a little bit of context. We were on a run, okay? And I've been running a lot recently. So it's easy for me to
Oh, yeah,
go,
that's right. To
it's
go,
easy
go,
for-
go.
To go.
So we ran for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I run maybe 3 miles a week. So I got very exerted. And at
Totally.
the end, I was very tired.
Perfect example.
Right.
This is a perfect example.
Whereas you were like, nice warm up. You know? And I wanted to kill you. Because you got us lost.
Well, and I didn't want
Lost-ish.
I didn't want to push you beyond your limits to where it was hurting you. I don't want to hurt you at all.
Oh, you did. It's okay.
You know?
It's okay because
Sure.
for next time.
Keep it. Don't point that.
Sorry,
It's okay.
I'm not the reporter. I keep
You're
forgetting.
good, you're good.
I'll put this back in a sec.
You're
I'm
fine.
sure this is gonna drive you crazy
No,
later.
it's fine. It's fine.
This is payback. But for next time, you know, it's like, okay, don't run quite that long until I'm more in shape, or maybe even like find like a happy medium, you know,
Totally.
where I'm pushing myself more. Maybe you're not pushing too much, you know.
Yeah.
And striving is where you're doing it on your own merits,
On your own strength.
on your own strength, and you're and doing it for your own merits. Whereas stretching is when you're just pushing yourself beyond your little comfort zone,
Sure.
in a way that broadens you and strengthens you. You said so. Stretching strengthens you. Striving just burns you out.
It just leads to burnout.
Burns out, like spiritual burnout.
Totally.
Plenty of people who are like started out as very like on fire believers in their lifestyle and then just, you know, I've kind of done that. It's like, I've not done a lot of service, I'll be honest, but like, just like how I've seen myself and how I've acted around people, trying to hold up this image of someone who has everything together and doesn't have any problems or flaws, you know, and it's not true. It's just not. And because here's the thing, if that was true, why would I need Jesus?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it's so easy to fall into, we don't realize it oftentimes, but it can be very easy. I myself am guilty of it, like where you fall into like self-righteousness, where you're like, I am
you.
yeah, like, well, it's like I'm like, you don't realize it, but you're actually putting so much pressure on yourself to perform in such a way that
the pressure to do well and not fail.
Yeah.
It's fear-based. It's a based situation. No, it's sorry. I kind of interrupted. Go on.
No, you're fine.
I wasn't really going anywhere with it.
Yeah, so I mean, to bring it back around to like healing, we need healing, you know, and it can be really painful. Like when you sanitize a wound, you experience this. I remember when you cut your leg open. For context, for someone else, maybe like you were walking on the countertop, right, in the kitchen. Yeah. And there was like a big sink full of dishes.
No. It was 2 dishes.
It was 2 dishes. 2
main dishes. There were 2 actors in this besides myself. There was a giant crock pot full of water, and in that water, invisible because it was underwater, was a glass. It was a glass.
But did you slip or did you?
I was crawling across the sink because for some reason I could climb up one side of the countertop but not the other. So I climbed to one side, then crawled across the sink to get to the glasses. Yeah. Because I was too short to reach and we didn't have a step stool. The situation was very contrived. Yes. Long story short, I slipped on the sink because it was wet, I think. So I fell into the sink. And my leg landed first. Maybe I stuck out my leg to like catch myself. My leg slammed into the crock pot. I don't even remember clearly how it felt. I remember crawling across, but after that it's like a blur. Like, wow. And I remember the pain, and then I remember a blur, like a blur of things. You good? What? That's my. What's the time?
I'll just read sync.
Tell me what the time is. Damn it.
Don't.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Profanity, okay. Trigger warning, sorry.
So you were talking about, you were crawling across, you slipped.
And, well, long story short, like, fell in, and it was such an intense, tense cut that I don't know if the camera can even see it, but if you look closely, you can see the line of the cut, which still, even after growing as much as I have, still covers like that much skin.
It's like a 6-inch scar across his calf.
And when I was smaller, imagine a less muscular, meaty calf that was like maybe 2/3 this like size of like what was it, like a 7-year-old, 6-year-old? Yeah.
Well, it was cut probably
to the bone.
Pretty much to the bone.
It was to the bone.
Yeah.
And it had like 8 layers of stitches, something crazy.
Yeah. So all that to say, I remember when they sanitized your wound.
All this back to sanitization.
Yeah, this is about the healing. Okay.
Yeah.
When they sanitized the wound, what happened? Do you remember?
It hurt a lot.
It freaking hurt, right?
I mean, I think I was already in so much pain, I might have been unconscious, but I do remember at one point they...
No, because I remember the scream.
Oh, was I awake?
Yeah, you were awake.
Oh.
I was in the waiting room. You were down.
Oh, gosh.
And the scream was so loud I could hear it in the waiting room.
Wow.
I was like, what is going on? I didn't even know if it was you.
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
So all that to say,
that happened to me, and I'm scared.
yeah. All that to say, when you have a wound from something, and you go through the process of healing, it's not always comfortable.
No.
You know, but there is wholeness on the other side of it. So if it feels like heavy, it's not meant to be heavy. Okay?
It's not.
It's not. You know?
My yoke is easy, and my burden is light.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And what does that look like? That looks like joy. That looks like
Fruit of the Spirit.
it's fruit of the Spirit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay if so
Well, that's great,
yeah.
and I agree.
Yeah.
But my point stands.
What?
Well, because you know why? I had this thought. Everything you said is true, and I agree.
Okay.
Which is why I think it's good we talk about it. The Lord made our world with a lot of things in it. And a lot of things were good. And he called the whole thing good. Sin came in the form of the serpent and Adam, or I should say, in the form of Adam's disobedience and Eve's disobedience.
Right.
But the good things that we're meant to enjoy in the world. Because why are we here if the whole point of the focus isn't on our living here, right? And our redemption in Christ. Part of it is the journey, life. And the things we enjoy in life, the good things, are worth talking about, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. So, in the same way, so you can talk about things that we enjoy, and we can talk about like the other things that aren't. You say everything's spiritual. I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, people could say baking is spiritual.
It doesn't mean we have to talk about this stuff all the time.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Right.
here's my analogy. Okay.
Okay. Ben.
Track with me for a second. Okay. Imagine.
How can we agree on something and yet still feel like we're I feel like we're disagreeing.
No, we're not. We're not.
Okay.
But track with me here for a second.
Okay.
Let's compare the life of a believer to a house.
Okay.
Okay. This is what did the Lord say. You know, He said.
Be a house.
He said. Yeah. You know, He said. Of course, I'm a builder, so I compare everything to construction.
Well, but it works. Well, and building's a very cool activity.
It's a solid metaphor or analogy. I need to actually look at the difference between those two, but
Metaphor is when you just say, okay, so here's how it works. Ready? Quick crash course. Simile is where you say like or as. So your eyes are like the sea when someone has blue eyes.
okay.
A metaphor would be like if I said, oh, I'm on a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster or something like that, where it's more dramatic language. So if you say like, he was a monster out there, you know, like that's a metaphor. He's calling him a monster.
So
He's not really a monster.
The only difference between metaphor and a simile is just the word like.
Pretty much the word like or as.
Okay.
Simile is more like you are as great as a
Comparison.
blank. Yeah.
Whereas metaphor puts you in the first person of whatever.
Right.
It is.
It's more dramatic.
Okay. Well,
And an analogy is
like a story kind of. Right?
yeah, like a story, like a smaller story.
Okay. So fine. I'll say then this simile would be like a house.
Okay.
Let's compare the life of a believer to a house.
Okay.
So we start with our foundation in Jesus.
So I was saying the timer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most important. Some people don't even have that, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because that's our basis for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the rest of the house then needs to be built, right?
Yeah.
So the floors need to be built, the walls,
Well, the frame.
the roof. And then there's mechanical systems within the house that make the house function.
Yeah.
Things like gutters, things like
Electrical,
plumbing. There's vents.
That's it.
to
Oh, yeah, air vents,
There's lights. There's lots of things, right? So here's what I would compare what we're talking about to a house. Sometimes people, without realizing it, their windows have been shattered and water's pouring into their house. But they're like, let's go downstairs and watch TV. You know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, we can.
But that water is going to start doing damage.
Exactly.
You're going to get rot
You're going to start to have problems
and insects.
as time goes on, because we know that neglect never makes things better. Right?
That's true.
There's maintenance, and sometimes we need to remodel, right? Because
a way we thought it would work didn't work.
Exactly. And so there are moments where it's like, yeah, we're meant to enjoy all things, and I want to enjoy all things. However, sometimes there are more pressing things at hand, and we have
That's true.
And we have to listen.
Now I'm getting you.
Yeah, we
now
have
I'm
to
getting
discern.
You. It's a
we
matter
have
of
to discern
priorities.
the time.
Yeah.
And then we discern that by the Spirit.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. That said, every
Talk to me
worker.
about tomato sauce.
I was gonna say, workers when they build a house, they don't build until the house is done. When as soon as they start building, they don't just keep building nonstop.
Yeah, that's true.
They take breaks. They
do.
rest.
You're
they
right.
review their progress.
You're right. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And they must do so according to a design. They can't just go rogue and just start doing whatever they want.
Right.
They have to reference the design.
I actually kind of had a similar thought to this. I was like, this was more about a creative process.
Okay.
But so it's a bit of a side note, side rail.
Sure.
So I mean, we can
fine.
bring it up in a little bit.
We're good. I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done with my little
Finished?
My little section.
Speech. Okay. So in conclusion, I'm right.
No, take it back to your point though.
Take it
so-
back.
Yeah.
The one I was going to bring up.
Sure.
No, that was a side rail.
Okay.
So we'll go to the side rail in a second. But yeah, so bring it back. I appreciate what you're doing and pushing me personally and broadcasting on the internet. It's okay. It's okay. But with that, I want to keep a variety
Totally.
of subjects.
Can I interject something very fast?
Because, well, here's the thing. So hold up.
Okay.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Those topics can all feed back into that because really our faith permeates our lives. We don't fit God into our life. We fit our life into God. And
Because that's how it's meant to be.
right.
That's
right.
what we're
Derek
created
White said
for.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's this guy called the Geek Preacher. He's pretty fun. You should look him up. But we bring it back, right? But we have to get into those topics in the first place, right? Right. And I feel like maybe this is also something I should just confess is like these past few weeks have been kind of turbulent for me,
I'll bet.
my life, just because like things have been pretty stressful, like life-wise, you know. And you I think you know what I'm talking about, like things with family, things with, you know, my own personal life and habits, things I've been trying to work through. And it is a nice reminder to remember what our foundation is, because it relieves the pressure to remember that Jesus saves, and we are not saved by works so that none can boast, you know. And even saying that, it kind of sounds a little like belabored. I think the other thing is like sometimes I just assume things are known, or I assume the knowledge, like, oh yeah, I know the gospel, and I roll my eyes a little bit, you know, because it's been repeated almost as more of like a curricular lesson.
Mantra.
Yeah, a mantra, or even like a curricular lesson, but it hasn't seen a lot of application in my life until the more recent, like
This is so good. This
6
is
or
so
8
good.
years.
Listen, here's the deal.
Here's the deal.
Some people, even though they quote unquote have a foundation, are building in such a way to where they are not transferring the weight of the structure onto the foundation.
I think you could say that. So you could say they're not building on foundation. You could also say their foundation is cracked.
That could also be.
And when your foundation is damaged, the entire frame, the entire
Suffers.
house
The whole
suffers.
house suffers.
And it's a lot more difficult to fix than just if you have a problem with the frame. The problem with the foundation goes much deeper. And it can be a lot harder to find the problem. Yeah.
And it really depends on the soil, too. Because you can have a good foundation, but if the soil isn't
The
good,
surrounding land,
the surrounding land isn't good,
it can break the
it
foundation.
can break the foundation.
Yeah.
Sand, clay.
Sand.
Yeah.
Sand is wonderful.
All these things point directly to wisdom from above, which is from God, which is saying what does this hold that's true about God, you know? Like we could even take it as far as say like the soil would be go to the soil that he talked about with parable of the sower.
When you grow houses, I don't think so. I agree though. I love like poetry and metaphorical language. I love that. I love them down. So anyway, real talk over, and now I'll put the mic back where it belongs. Thank you for going into that with me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
What's up?
I wanted to tell you something, man.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm really.
You have a
proud
complaint about me?
No, I'm really proud of you, bro.
Oh, okay.
You are really good at receiving something that's not easy to receive.
I'm actually not.
Well,
it's only like the strength that I find when I submit and relax, and when I yield to the, that voice
voice of the Lord,
Holy Spirit, and it's very quiet sometimes.
Yeah.
It's there.
But that takes humility.
It's hard.
That's humility.
It is so
dude.
hard.
That's humility. That is where God can work. Is for a lot of people, dude. They've got that pride.
They got that pride.
They got that pride though.
That pride though.
But they'll never be able to receive from God because they're puffed up.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the thing is, it's like, for some people, that's true. For other people, it's almost like an inverted issue. Like, I know examples of believers, and it's kind of been a bit of a problem for me. Like, it's been a stumbling block where I've seen believers or people who they don't have the problem of they're proud of their life, and that kind of makes them like, oh, I don't need to improve. They're like almost like virtue signaling people, where they're like, they have nothing to be proud of. Like them being humble, them being unproud is almost like, why would you be proud? You're a weak person. You're a weak Christian. Your life is not something to be modeled after anyway. And so when you talk about, oh, I'm so humble or whatever, you're just weak. Yeah. You don't actually have a strength underneath that.
It's a facade.
It's a facade of a good Christian. Right? But good Christians aren't weak people. Amen. Good people aren't weak, But yeah, I'm going off on a bit of a side rail. No,
but you're right. Yeah. You're right. True strength is knowing that, listen, you could, like an ant that could be crushed. Like God could instantly wipe us out. But he doesn't. He doesn't. Because strength doesn't look like how we think strength looks like. True strength, it's like, it goes back to meekness, right? We talked about this earlier this morning too. The strength of having a sword, and Jordan Peterson has talked about it. And I don't condone Jordan Peterson as a teacher, but he does. There are things that
he makes good points.
There are things that he says that have a grain of truth in them. Yeah. And which is honestly,
Donald Trump says things that are great, but that doesn't mean you should model your life after him.
Exactly. And honestly, the dangerous thing that I've seen with people is they can hear something that's true from a person,
and then they take that whole person as,
and then they follow the person.
Yeah, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Not realizing that person isn't pointing to Jesus truly. Well, they might be pointing to things that are true. Right. But
and it's like it's in that principle, actually, it's funny. Here I'm saying, let's not talk about just this, but we're going on and on about this. Anyway.
Sure.
That principle applies to everyone. That even applies to other believers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can have unity, like you were talking about with me the other day, like in the spirit, where people are able to act in accordance with God's will as a group, which is rare. But here's the thing.
Sorry, keep going.
You're good. Yeah. No one is perfect or above reproach when they do wrong, right? No one.
Everyone's imperfect.
Right, okay? Everyone's imperfect.
That being said, the Bible has made it very clear that our calling, especially for like pastors and leaders, is to be above reproach. To be perfect as he is perfect. That's what the Bible says. Now,
not above reproach, and because
that's what it literally says.
Well, but
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I get that,
Yeah.
but it also means like it gives the message that like, oh, you can't tell a pastor they're doing something wrong, whoever they are. Because there are plenty of examples where pastors will do something wrong.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
But what they are called to and what some achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, and
Anyway, go on. I'm fact checking you.
well,
I'm fact checking you.
I heard someone talk about the first Christians didn't even really call themselves Christians.
That was what they were called, yeah.
That was what other people called them.
Yeah.
Which what does the word Christian mean?
A Christian.
It means a little Christ.
Yeah.
Because they reminded him of Jesus. These days, some people have actually not liked the label Christian because so many identify as quote unquote Christian.
Yeah.
And yet, they take on the label, yet they might not take on the likeness. When the whole goal is to take on the likeness. That's the whole goal.
Yeah.
You know? I heard someone else say, like, oh, it was Dan Moeller. Dan Moeller saying, oh, we've turned it into a prayer. Take me to heaven. When that wasn't even what, he's talking about how the gospel is Christ likeness. It is actually going back to the creation to say, listen, we can actually love God and be with God. We couldn't do that without what he's done.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing,
Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of examples of divine wrath in my life. So when I read those stories as a kid, it was cool, but like, it takes time to wake up to the reality of truth.
Well, the
Especially-
Father has to draw us.
Yeah.
It says no man comes unless the Father draws him.
Yeah.
But what makes you say that? Like, it takes a while to wake up to truth.
Well, like you can tell someone they need to do something, or you can tell someone smoking's bad for them. But will they stop? Maybe. And yeah, odds are they probably won't stop unless something happens. Maybe they get lung cancer in the extreme example. Or maybe they just start to cough a lot. Or maybe their family says, why are you doing this? You need to stop. Like they have an intervention or something. It takes consequence and manifestation of reality for people to recognize truth.
To wake up.
Yeah. Because people need proof. I'm a great example of that. Like I've heard things from people like you should stop doing this or you need this.
Behavior modification.
Right. Yeah. And I won't stop until I realize the consequences. And that's on the surface also. Like sometimes that's like surface stuff.
Do you have an example?
So a less personal example is like not getting enough sleep. And I hear like, oh, when you don't sleep enough, you're shortening your lifespan. You're not as productive during the day. You're less happy. It's just a ton of bad stuff. And I learned a bunch of stuff about why, like where it came from, like the culture that kind of pushed that. But I still. I think I'm good, bro. Oh, I keep forgetting that's your camera. I think mine's still good. Ben, I think it's every 20 minutes yours is going off. There's probably a timer we have to take care of. Okay. You got it though, right around that 20-minute mark. Yeah. I'll set it for 19 minutes. There we go.
So you're talking about, sorry about that, the camera's cut out, but you're talking about consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
And
that's on a surface.
with sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah.
So tell me, Ben, aside from surface stuff, okay, it's 2:30. I do need to finish up soon.
Yeah, we need to wrap up soon.
Wrap up.
Let's go ahead and hit this last segment.
Hit this last nail on the head. So, yeah, it's like surface stuff. That's one example. But like spiritually, as a believer, like in my heart of hearts, when I am struggling, my spirit struggles.
You're talking about, let's get personal for a second. Are you talking about with sin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So continue what you were saying.
When I feel that struggle, to acknowledge not the hard truth, I guess, to acknowledge the beautiful truth of the gospel. It's so against the, like, world's way of thinking, the world's wisdom.
Yeah, yeah.
It's which says you have to earn everything.
Yep.
You have to be good enough. You have to be great enough. You have to be, like, you have to perform, you know, and but at the same time, from the enemy, it's like you'll never be enough, never be good enough. Give up, you know, and to embrace that, the truth of Christ, which is, you don't have to be good enough because I make you good enough. And because I make you good enough, go, you know, go now in that truth, go and do. Go
Totally.
And,
well, and yeah, and not
make
only
disciples, you know, spread the word and
not only that
and love.
Not only that, we need. This is
and be healed.
And be healed. This is a topic for another video, but power, real power. What does real power look like?
That's another video, Ben.
It's another video.
Because I'm getting tired of talking about this stuff, to be honest. Like, as much as I say all this stuff, like, I still don't fully absorb it. You know, it takes more than just talking. Is what it is.
Are you talking about like the topics and stuff like that?
Yeah, these topics. Yeah. Let's end it with something fun for the viewers.
the two people that watch this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Please tell your friends about this. No, I'm just kidding. Ben, so we should actually, I'm not gonna propose an activity. We were talking about video games and stuff. Yeah, any games you play that you're into? Video games? No? Okay. You liked Death Road to Canada, though. That's a fun game.
Yeah, I mean...
let me ask you something. Do you play that just because you want to, enjoy a good time playing, with us, with family?
Yeah.
You can play with me? Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So...
Yeah.
Oh, my side rail. So I was thinking about the analogy of building.
Oh, yeah.
And I tied that to creating stuff. So I think one of the reasons I've had such a roadblock when I was younger for creating stuff is because I was very beginning to end. I had the idea that, films are made, they film the start, they film the middle, they film the end, and that's how it's made, right? Chronologically. That kind of thing. My brain didn't realize there were systems behind things to make things workable when being creative.
The production side.
Right, the production side. And so, for example, when you build a house, you don't build, okay, we're going to build this room. This room's done. We're going to build this room. This room's done. We're going to build the entrance. We're going to build the back. It's not like a scanner. It's not a printer, I realize, is the better way to describe it. Printers just go line of perfect image, another line of perfect image, another line of perfect image. What's the problem with that? It takes forever. Let's say it'll take 10 hours to print. At the end of that 10 hours, you have the finished product, but what happens if, there was a mistake here? Then you have to do the whole thing all over again.
Everything's done in layers.
Right. And here's the other thing is 9 hours into that printing, what do you have? Nothing to show for it. Because you can't take that paper and show it to anyone and say, this is the rough product. No, you have nothing until the printing is up. But if you go in layers, foundation, got the frame. At any point, you can say, hold on, the customer changed their mind. They want it done like this. They don't like this finish. We put on the finish, right? We don't like this finish. Change it before the final thing, right? You go in stages. And I just had that thought, everything, every effective and efficient, effort does that. You know? And it was just...
Stages.
It was just a cool thought.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty common sense, maybe, but, It
was a little revelation for you.
Yeah, it was a little epiphany.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's something very significant about that.
Yeah.
I
was making I'm making a little shoot 'em up, arcade style spaceship game on Pico 8, and I've been getting some headway with it, but those kinds of projects sometimes I peter out on. Because I'm just I'm doing it I said, a printer. And I'm just I just need to do it in stages, you know?
Yeah.
Super simple. that kind of thing.
With kind of like the body, skeleton. And,
Yeah.
Very cool, man. All right, so closing thoughts, Gabe.
You're like, so boring. Why can't we talk about the gospel more? So
Closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts.
What are your closing thoughts? What do you take away from this conversation, and what do you think you want to think more about?
Closing thoughts. Step 1: hold the mic up to your mouth. I would say change and growth aren't easy, and they can feel uncomfortable sometimes. And the key to good change and good stretching is what gives growth and what acknowledges truth. And what's not just like striving or putting on airs, basically. Don't put on airs.
Amen.
Don't do it, kids. Doesn't work.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
So can you say that again?
Are you like okay, but are you spacing out?
I was distracted for a second.
You're good. You
said basically don't
eat things off the ground. No. It's like Sonic Says. It's like at the end. I mean, now you're affecting me. Like I'm getting like a brain farting moment. Cut this out.
No. You were saying. I was saying. What's a takeaway from you, and what do you want to think more about?
I feel like I'm being quizzed.
No. It's not a quiz. I'm just asking if anything.
If anything, nothing.
Or a closing remark you want to make to me, or whatever.
Closing remark.
Yeah, man.
Passive aggressive remark.
Yeah.
I hope you learned your lesson. No,
never talk about this again.
I enjoy doing this. Let's factor this in for next time.
What's that?
Our talk and our discussion.
Yeah.
Let's make sure. Let's have a variety of things to talk about.
Okay.
And remembering the truths of what you've said to me, and
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Sorry, I'm probably being too vague, but
no, you're good.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd probably say,
yeah. What about for you, Ben?
Yeah. Well, thanks,
Put Ben on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I'd say just kind of like the run. It's like, listen, if you run every day, you have to pace according to what is both stretching, but what ultimately doesn't lead to burnout.
Or heart failure.
Yeah.
In the literal case of running.
Extreme organ shutdown. Yeah, we don't want that.
Dude.
Yeah.
The first time I ran like a long time, do you remember that feeling when you first started running? How you felt at the end after like a long run?
It was exhausting.
Yeah. Like I tasted like nails in my mouth.
That's not good.
That's how exhausted I was. Yeah. I like ran like a mile and I was like, your body is like, you have to take it like a step at a time. But when you first do it, it can be so tiring.
Totally.
It's like that with the faith, Well, not exactly.
Not
but
exactly.
Yeah. You don't taste nails at the start.
But yeah, you don't.
It can actually get harder as you go.
But something's gonna give, and it's gonna be good.
That's what you've taken away?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
You start to see the results of your labor, the fruits of your labor.
Okay. Yeah. I meant for like right now.
Oh, yeah. With this podcast.
Did you learn anything from me, Ben? Was I contributing anything to you?
Yes, you were, yes.
Did I give you any nugget?
Any tidbits?
Ben, this is just about Gabe learning. This is the Gabe learning time. This really should just be Ben teaches Gabe.
No, not at all.
Supercast. I'll bring a recipe next time that I memorized.
You helped me with the website. My company website.
Gabe, I need you. You're my web slave.
My web slave. Work slave. Yeah. Good deal. Well, we're gonna phase it out.
We didn't have that during the episode, you stupid.
Hang on, I gotta bring the music back in.
It's alright. I'll contribute eventually, Ben. I'll be good enough.
The BnG Supercast. Where
Yeah.
we talk and Gabe hates it.
I'll get there. I'll get there.
this brand new way. It might surprise you. You will like to. You got to
I promise, guys. Ben's a great person. he doesn't learn from me. He doesn't recognize my greatness. My greatness. But you do, right?